What's going on? This is your man, Big Stu, Scott Stewart, or Professor Stewart, depending on how you know me. And we are back for, yes, another edition of Dope People on the Dope People podcast. And like I always say, and I'm not playing any games about this, and you'll soon find out, I have another dope guest joining us today. Miss Bejanae Kareem is here. Bejanae Kareem, welcome to Dope People.
Thank you, Professor Stewart. I appreciate you.
Okay, so Miss Kareem, listen, before we get started, I'd like to formally introduce you to the audience. All right, so listen up, people. Miss Bejanae Kareem, she is the grant guru. So all you educators out there, listen up, get your pad and pencil ready. Do what you need to do to get these notes. Bejanae Kareem is a social good entrepreneur with more than 20 years of experience in education, grants, equity building, and STEAM education. We're going to talk about STEAM, right? Science, technology, engineering, arts, and math education. Her mission is to advance equity around the world by building educator capacity in grant writing and STEAM to increase student access to innovative education. You all got to pay attention on this episode. This is absolutely phenomenal. Currently, Bejanae Kareem, also affectionately known as BK, is the founder and executive director of BK International Education Consultancy. Bejanae Kareem, BK, welcome to the show. Welcome to the Dope People podcast.
Thank you, Scott. I'm so excited to be here and to get to finally speak with you and your audience. I'm all
this
about.
This is gonna be fun.
Oh, for sure, absolutely. I can't wait. Can't wait to dig in.
And for those who are only listening, this will be on YouTube. But those who you are missing out. She has one of the most amazing backgrounds that I've ever seen. This is how you put a background together.
Okay.
If you're an entrepreneur, you're pushing some product or services. This is how you do it. So she's definitely got that arts piece down pat. Great job on the innovation of creating your virtual background for this conversation.
Thank you. And just for those who can't see it, it has my logo on there, has a chalkboard with different graphics on there related to education. It has my social handles at Facebook at BK Consultancy, and on Instagram at BK_Consultancy, as well as a book that we'll talk to a little bit with you all later on about 12 quick steps to writing winning classroom grants. How you tap into those funds, and where does the money reside? So
come on, BK.
About all that.
Come on, BK. Come on, BK. This is how you do it.
I'm
You're
ready.
Making it tough on the guests that come on here after you. You're making it real tough on them.
Level up.
Well, look, before we get too deep into the conversation, we've heard your formal introduction, your resume, if you will. That sounds good. But let's find out. Let's let the people get to know you a little bit more through our traditional game here on Dope People, this or that. Are you down a round of this or that?
Oh, I'm ready.
You ready? All right.
Yes.
These educators come on here ready. All right, let's get started. Okay. Nights on the town or quiet nights at home?
Quiet nights at home.
All right. Here we go. Let's keep going. Audiobook or paperback book?
Ooh, that's a hard one, Scott. That's a hard one. I think it depends on where I'm at. If I'm in my car, definitely audio, but I do like a physical copy so I can highlight and make notes. So, that's tie.
Well, this is not this, that, or tie. This is this
okay.
or that.
All right. Let me go with the paperback. Old school.
Paperback. All right. Okay. Apple Music or Spotify?
Ooh, I'm gonna go with Spotify on this one. I'm gonna go with Spotify.
Okay. All right. Now, all right, I'm gonna keep going to my normal line. MJ or LeBron?
Oh my goodness. I don't know much about sports. I do know their names. But I'm gonna have to go with the classic. I'm gonna have to go with MJ.
MJ, all right, all right.
MJ
That's
all
our,
day.
that's right.
MJ
That's
all
right.
day.
Summers or winters?
Oh, summers, hands down. Give me the heat. Bring on the fire. Okay.
All right. Hip hop or R&B?
Ah, these hard ones. These hard ones. Ooh. I'm gonna go with R&B on that one. I'm gonna go with R&B on that one.
R&B
Yeah.
wins. All right, here's another tough one. Wonder Woman or Black Widow?
Ooh, Wonder Woman or Black Widow. Oh my goodness, these questions you got, you having me think early in the morning. Listen. You know what? I'm gonna go with Wonder Woman on that one. I'm going with the classics today. I'm going with the classics. So I'm gonna go with Wonder Woman. I'm gonna stay on trend with the classics.
Okay. We're about to round this up. We're coming to the last leg of this. All right. All right. So you said nights at home, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But all right, in this question of this or that, streaming video, streaming movie, or going to the movie theater.
Okay. Yeah, that's going to be an easy one. I'm definitely going to say streaming.
Okay. All right.
For those COVID protocols, I'm going to go with streaming.
Okay.
And then also, I'm a low key introvert, so yeah, let me stay in the comfort of my own home and space.
I'm finding a lot of dope people. A lot of dope people are low key introverts.
Yeah.
A lot of dope people.
So let's get it on the streaming. Tap
All
into technology.
Okay. All right. Teachers or principals?
Oh, come on. Come on, Scott. Really? Why does it have to be a this or that? They all are important. They're all educators.
It's not.
Oh my goodness.
Teachers or principals?
Oh my goodness.
If you came to who you advocating for first and foremost? Teachers or principals?
I'm rooting for everybody, like they say. But if we have to pick this or that, I'm going to see the people who are in the trenches. I'm going to go with teachers on that one.
Absolutely. I imagined you would. PWI or HBCU?
Ooh. So I went to a PWI, but I wish I had have gone to an HBCU. So I'm going to say HBCU for sure. Absolutely.
Congratulations on completing the round of this or that on Dope People.
That was so much fun.
That was fun. You did great. You did great with that. Bejanae Kareem. Tell us, so where are you from? Where you from? How'd you where you from and how'd you kind of get here?
Yeah. So I'm an H-Town girl. I was born in Houston, but I was raised in the Midwest. I was actually raised in St. Louis, Missouri. So when you said, LeBron or MJ, I had to go with the Midwest because Chicago's close by.
Yeah.
So I grew up in St. Louis. In my primary school years, I went to public schools, but then most of my matriculation was really in Catholic school. So St. Louis is a low-key Catholic town, I would say. You have deep Catholic roots. So I went to several parochial schools from middle school to high school.
Okay. Yeah, St. Louis and St. Louis is big on going to the right school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Almost to it. It's very I hope I don't get in trouble for this, but it's, they're particular. They're pretty particular. You had to have gone to the right school in St. Louis. Let me say that.
Yeah.
Okay, what kind of student were you in school, middle school, high school? What kind of student were you?
That's a great question. So the middle school that I went to and the high school that I went to, there were night and day. So the middle school that I went to, although it was a parochial Catholic school, it was an all Black school. So I was with my folks there. So, I feel like I could be authentically me. It was great. Had great experiences, and I still have friends from middle school that I connect with. When I go back home, I hang out with. Um, and in terms of a student, to be honest, I would say I was an average student. I wouldn't, I definitely wouldn't say I made the honor roll. Um, and then when I transitioned to high school, as I said, it was night and day from middle school. I went to a predominantly white school, Catholic school. Actually, it was an all girls school, and so my grades were different then because um, of the support that were available or were not available. And so while I graduated with honors, and I wasn't at the top of my class, but I definitely was within that middle ground in the bell curve, right?
Mhm.
And so those experiences really, it was a culture shock in some way, and I got an opportunity to realize um, different cultural perspectives, growing up, which really uh, helped form my education lens when I became an educator myself.
Now, were you in school always knowing that you wanted to be in education? Did you always know you wanted to be in education? And what was your first experience in the education field?
Great question. So actually, I would say yes and no to your first question. Did I always know? So I didn't always know, but DNA runs in my blood. So I come from a family and a line of educators.
Okay, all right.
So, so I can remember back to when I was young, I was creating little workbooks for my friends
Wow.
and things like that, right? But by the time I got to high school, my thought was I wanted to be a doctor of some sort. I didn't know exactly what kind of doctor, but I wanted to be a doctor. And so there actually was a local hospital not too far from my high school that ended up getting a job at. And I thought, oh, well, this will give me some exposure, to what is it like maybe working in a hospital if I was a doctor. And so what I found from that experience was it was one of those process of elimination things. So sometimes people ask you, well, what do you want to be? And sometimes you don't know, but you have to go through those process of elimination experiences to say, oh yeah, that's not it. That's not what I thought it was, right?
Yeah.
And so from my hospital experience, I was like, okay, I don't really want to be around infectious diseases. But I still ended up majoring in biology and chemistry in undergrad because I still had an affinity for the sciences. And so I uh, I did in my undergrad degree. My thought was I wanted to do something around. I wanted to help people in some kind of way, and so I thought I could use my science degree in environmental science space to help people. And so, like, I interned while I was an undergrad at the Environmental Protection Agency in Atlanta, in the Environmental Justice Division. And I also was a part of an AmeriCorps volunteer group where we had this environmental focus. But after college, I remember I had two jobs on the table. I was going to work, at this government agency, or actually go into teaching via Teach for America. And then I would get my master's degree in environmental science later on. And that was a pivotal decision because I opted to go with Teach for America, and that completely shifted my perspective and my career path. And so, as I mentioned before, I have these early memories of creating workbooks and things like that for my friend, like creating these learning spaces. But I didn't come full circle until I had those other experiences along the way. And so now I merge the two. I merge my science, passion and background with this educational space.
So yeah, that's a phenomenal. Um, that the fact that you're sharing kind of that non-linear path
Hmm.
to the space that you're in right now. So did you were a classroom teacher?
Yes, that's right. That's
Yeah.
absolutely right.
And what
That's
grade
absolutely right.
levels did you teach? What did you teach?
Absolutely. So I taught. So originally, I was like, oh, I have a biology degree. I want to teach biology. That makes sense. Um, and fortunately, I'm glad that actually didn't happen. I was placed in an elementary school. So in elementary school here locally in Atlanta, you're a generalist. So you teach all the subjects. So I had to step my writing game up, my ELA game up, my math game up, social studies, arts, all those things, because we teach all those things and should integrate all those things. So yeah, I taught let's see, second grade mostly, third grade, but then during off times, I also was an online tutor for PK through 12 for students who needed academic support in reading and mathematics.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that for 10 years, about 10 years. So I have 10
Mm-hmm.
years in the game. I'm a vet.
Okay. Okay. And so at some point you came up, you realized that, and no, I don't want to tell the story. Let me let you tell the story. At what point did you realize that you needed to create the 12 quick steps to writing winning classroom grants? When did that occur to you?
Yeah. So that actually didn't come till later on. What I found myself doing in a classroom, and I'm sure anybody out there who's an educator can agree with this, and probably this will resonate with, is that I was spending out of pocket for classroom funds all the time. So, like, if I wanted to do some cool STEAM experiments in my classroom or do something that's hands on and not just remote, textbook reading, then that come with supplies. And unfortunately, with schools, there are limitations on what teachers can have access to or the quantity of what they can have. And so teachers have to, we're passionate enough that we're going to make it happen, do what we have to do for our children. So we spend out of pocket to get, this, that, and the third. What I found though is that through statistics from the US Department of Education, that I'm not alone. 94% of educators are also spending out of pocket. And I was like, wait a minute,
Wow.
what is this? Set 94%. And on average, teachers are spending annually anywhere from 500 to maybe right under $1,000 out of the pocket
Yeah.
on salaries that are limited anyway, right?
Yeah.
And so as an educator, uh, and actually using, I would say, my science background. So I'm always thinking about systems improvement, right? Like as an engineer. So if there's a problem here, what are some other solutions that we can accomplish and meet a goal? So I eventually got tired of actually spending out of pocket. I was like, there has to be a better way. And so I started doing some research and I found out about, oh, there are classroom grants out. There's money out here. I didn't know about this. And so I started leveraging actually my scholarship writing skills that I had developed when I was going through undergrad to find money for school, and realized like, oh, I could apply that same skill here in this space to get what I need for my kids, to create more of an innovative learning space and eliminate me from having to spend out of pocket. And I can actually get more because there are funders out here, corporations, organizations that want to do good and help support. So that was the catalyst for me writing 12 Quick Steps to Writing Winning Classroom Grants. And what I tried to do is make it super simple. The book is not long. I know teachers don't have a lot of time to read because they have so many other demands on them, but it's outlined just as a lesson plan format. So if you can write a lesson plan, you can write a grant application. We make it that simple for you.
Okay. And what how many grants, how much grant money can one teacher get in a school year? And I want to pose that same question, kind of, I want to add this to that same question. What's the most that you know that one teacher has gotten in a school year from writing grants?
That's a great question. And that's a complex question because it depends on how often that person writes. What is their experience with writing grants? So just like we tell the students, the more you do it, the better you become at it. And then what type of grants are they going after? So there are a variety of grants that start out to a couple $100s to thousands of dollars. Are you writing a grant just for your classroom? or for your whole school. So it could vary. It could very much vary. So most recently, we also do master classes to help unpack the book, because teachers want to be able to ask questions in real time, right? And get some of those answers that they answers to the questions that they need to, so that they can apply it right away, apply the steps right away. And so from that, we've been finding that from the book and from the master class, teachers have been awarded everywhere from a minimum of $1,000, which in teacher language is
That's
great, is a
gold.
lot, right?
That's gold. You a
Like,
billionaire. You get
exactly.
$1,000 for your classroom. You can do so much. Oh
That
my
is
goodness.
exactly right, right? To several thousands of dollars. And so I've been working with co-authoring grants and working with teams where we've gotten hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then, once you get up there, then you can go after maybe even some federal grants where they're offering, tapping into hundreds of thousands as well as millions. So at a minimum, I would say you can get a couple hundred to $1,000 just at a basic level, with little to no experience.
Yeah. And your book makes that simple and easy. We'll talk about the book and maybe we'll dig into some more outcomes from the book in just a few more minutes. But let's back up for a second.
Sure.
Let's talk about your experience with these young people.
Mm-hmm.
At Genius Lab, the company that I am the founder and CEO of, our focus has been and continues to be squarely focused on preparing young people for careers in IT, which we understand is oftentimes preparing them for jobs that don't even exist yet. And we spend a lot of time helping students formulate the right mindset to prepare to sit and understand how technology works and what's happening in STEM, right? So what's your experience? How are students responding, especially, post-pandemic, since the pandemic? How are they responding to STEM education, or in your case, STEAM education?
Mm-hmm. That's a great question. And we have to say we love, love, love what you all are doing over at Genius Lab, because that's the essence and the core of what I'm all about too. It's yes, there's technical skills in STEAM and science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. But if you can tap into those mindsets, you are set for life, regardless of what industry that you go into, right? Having those critical thinking skills, being able to communicate, collaborate with others, and being creative like that, that is that the life's work, right? That is the goal in creating positive outcomes for adults, for people, for children. And so I would say, because of the pandemic, one, there has been a thrust into technology. So I'm glad that you're in that space, because we specifically in the education realm is showing that, hey, we need to think about school a different way. Like before, maybe technology was optional, maybe it was for the magnet schools or things like that. But no, like this is the way of the future. And we all have to lean in and tap in and figure out how to leverage it in the best ways possible to set children up for success, to set people up for success, right? So that's one thing. Another thing is, just as before, it has spotlighted, some of those gaps and those holes in the education system. But again, it's in thinking through, like, okay, if this is not working, how can we do this differently? And so finding that, yes, we need to be able to provide students with more access, because there is that is a real thing. How can we make this curriculum relevant for students,
Mm-hmm.
so that they can connect to it and see that it's connected in a real world? Why am I learning this? Even as an adult, I want to know, why am I doing this?
Right.
How is this going to benefit me? And kids want to know that too. Like, what does this have to do with my everyday life? They don't want to know about something that's going to happen 10 years once they graduate. How is this immediate now? And so there's so much technology out there with what these kids have access and exposure to, whether it's, social media platforms, or they creating YouTube channels for themselves. Let's use it. That's being culturally responsive. Let's use that as a learning medium. Let's use it as a learning medium.
Yeah, I think that's spot on, and particularly when you speak about the relevancy. Students want to know. It's hard. They want to know how can I use this today? It's hard for them to think about even the plans for the weekend. They're just trying to get through this moment.
That's right.
They're not emotionally inept yet. And just like the book you wrote, the 12 quick steps to writing winning classroom grants, we want to know how we can apply. We're going to do how can I do now?
Right.
I need to do now.
Immediate. Right. Instant. Right. ASAP.
Right. Let's talk about what's working for you right now. You've made the transition to entrepreneur, to business owner, which is not how most educators think. There's a term that I recently was introduced to. It's then seems when I was introduced to the term, it was like, I felt like I should have known this term already, but I didn't. Career educators.
Oh,
I didn't know that term until quite recently.
Tell me more about that.
So career educators are not entrepreneurial.
Okay.
You've made the shift to entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm.
What is working for you in your current role as an entrepreneurial educator?
Mm-hmm. I would say two things, Scott, two things. So one, I would say the STEM process, STEM mindsets, because as you said, my background is in science, my background is in education. It is not in business. But what I've found out though, is that those same processes, either the engineering design process or the scientific method, are used in my business every day for me to figure out problems for my business.
Absolutely.
And to create solutions. And so I didn't realize that before. I was like, oh, I'm using this in this new role. Like, okay, this makes sense. And even with marketing. So like marketing, I have no business marketing anything because that is not my background. But the concept or the framework of marketing is STEM. It's STEAM. It is what is the problem? So one is the problem is that we want to get XYZ in the hands of XYZ folks, right? Well, let's do some research. What are the best ways of doing that? Let's test it out. Let's see. What is our goal? Did we reach our goal? We didn't reach our goal. What can we tweak? Right. What can we iterate and try again to see if we can hit our target? And so the STEM process, the STEAM process actually helps in entrepreneurship. The second thing I would say that's working for me is partnering with dope folks like you who are operating the Genius Lab and the Dope People podcast, being a partner with other entrepreneurs who have education backgrounds, or even if they don't have an education background, we all learn from each other. We all support each other. As Andre 3000 say, no man is an island, right? So we can't do this alone. We can't go after this alone. And so being able to partner with others, to support others, to learn from others, the same thing that students do in the classroom are the same life skills that I'm learning OJT on the job as an edupreneur.
Edupreneur. No. Well,
let me
tell you, every episode, somebody is dropping a new word.
There you go.
And so we are into word porn on dope people. We love words. We love it. Edupreneur. Brand new word.
There you go.
I'm gonna have to add a sound effect for the bomb drop on that one. Edupreneur. Absolutely. One thing I know for sure, when I was in high school, when I was in middle school, high school, the only thing I wanted to do was to get out of school. I came to school to hurry up to get out of school. I want the day to be over.
Right.
It never had anything to do with my lack of intelligence, right? Mm-hmm. Yep. Although my grades were very mediocre. Mm-hmm. It was not because I was unintelligent. I've always been a pretty decent writer. Mm-hmm. I've always been a pretty decent articulator or orator. I've always been a deep critical thinker. I can solve puzzles and problems. It had every single thing to do with a lack of connection that I felt with my teachers. There were very few teachers in my formative educational years that I felt really got me, right? How are you making these classroom connections with students today?
That's a great question. And just as a caveat, who we tend to focus on and support are the educators who are impacting students. So we are working with adult learners for the most part, but we do have some programs, what we call intergenerational programs, where we will have adults and children working side by side. And there's so much power in that. And you are absolutely right. Relationships matter, period. Who doesn't want to be seen? Who doesn't want to be heard? Who doesn't want to be understood and appreciated? And I completely get what you're saying, because I felt the same way. And my high school that I went to, that was predominantly white. It was like, oh, I'm just kind of shrinking down in the middle here and kind of getting overlooked. And so relationships absolutely matter, whether you're in school, whether you're on the job, whether you're at church, wherever you are. Relationships precede anything, period. And so, and especially now in the technology era, people want to feel connected. Students want to feel connected. And so being what I call being culturally responsive is definitely a way to go about doing that. And so collecting those data points. So as you said, like you were probably checked out at school, right? That's a data point for an educator.
Mhm.
A lot of times, teachers are thinking about classroom management and behavior and, oh, student engagement. Student engagement is a symptom of something else. Have you gotten to the root cause of why students aren't engaged, or students may, be acting up in class? That's data. That's data for you to collect and to use into your instruction so that you can leverage students' talents, um, and their creativity to really foster and bring the curriculum alive. And does it take more time? Yeah, yeah. But guess what? It's going to make your job easier as an educator, and it's going to be more meaningful for students. And you're going to see those student outcomes. You're definitely going to see those student outcomes.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Great answer, by the way. What, Bejanae, what frustrates you the most right now about our educational system, or in the work that you're doing or what you've seen?
Mhm.
What's the that one challenge that is kind of keeping you up at night that you're looking to solve?
Yeah, I think for us at BK International Education Consultancy is actually two things. It's one, the underfunding of schools is a big one. So the United States, what they invest into schools comparative to nations, say in Europe,
Mm.
100% of schools are underfunded. And then unpack that even more once you go into um, communities of color and communities of poverty, then that underfunding increases. So you have a even less access to investments to get a quality education. That is absolutely ridiculous if we're supposed to be a first world country. That makes no sense. That makes no sense at all to us. So that's one, that's an equity issue. The other equity issue is ineffective teacher training. You
That's
know,
huge.
yeah, students will do well. Students will thrive if teachers are able to thrive. And so doing these ones, sit and get workshops, that does not work. Research shows us that they do not work. Ask any educator, they will tell you that does not work for me. So the same thing that we're requiring of educators to be more interactive and chunk material, not lecture the whole time, use visuals, are the same things that need to happen in adult learning principles and trainings, and it's not happening. And so that's what we do and take pride in BK International Education Consultancy, because it's not enough to know the what it is teachers are supposed to do or the why it's important. Teachers want to, like you said, they want to know how. How can I apply this right away? How does this
Mhm.
make sense for me? And so those are the two things that are keeping us up at night: is the underfunding of schools and ineffective teacher training.
Let's talk about that ineffective teacher training for a moment. Um, there's some dope, highly effective, highly successful educators listening to this podcast right now, or even aspiring? Maybe there's some teachers that are listening who desire to get into educational leadership, right?
Yeah.
What do you say to educators to help them check their own gauge for their own effectiveness in a real way? You know, what I mean is, I have found in my experience, many educators find difficulty in being wrong, and admitting mistakes. So let me I'll rest right there. Like, they find it's hard to get an educator to admit that they were wrong, or to admit that they may be doing something wrong. And if I'm standing here teaching this and you didn't get it, student, then that's on you. At the same time, educational leaders, the principals, the consultants, even, right? Hey, we've got the answers. I'm the CEO of Genius Lab. This works, this work. What would you say to us to have us check our own gauge for being better at what we're doing?
That is a loaded question. There's so many variables that are involved in that, but two come to top of mind. One, you alluded to it, checking your ego. Checking your ego is the first thing, because as you said, getting feedback, it often feels personal. And a lot of times that comes from a long history. That could come from trauma, from childhood, or there's a lot of things that factor into that, right? But that is definitely a human experience. But we have to depersonalize the feedback and look at it as data. It is a data point. And not all data points you can do something with. Sometimes they're outliers. But if there's a reoccurring theme, then yeah, we have to do something about that. The other thing is, I would say, utilizing the STEAM process. So either the engineering design process or the scientific method. If you're rolling out a new curriculum or a new program or whatever it is, the reason why I like those STEAM processes is because embedded in it, they're expecting you to get it wrong. That's why they say you have to go back and iterate. They expect you to get it wrong. Like, they know that that's what's going to happen. But we have built up that we want these quick fixes and these quick wins. And in education, it's not set up that way, because there's so many variables at play at one time. It's not realistic, and that's worked yet. That is not happening. So we have to shift our mindset. So one, I would say, check our ego, and then use the STEAM process. And this is also hard. I would say this is going to, and people are going to be like, what? That doesn't even make sense. But when you are focusing on rolling out, training so they can be more effective, just only focus on a few things at a time. I know, like, the building's on fire and there's a lot of things that we need to do, but I would say focus on one thing and really hone in and get that tight and master that, and then move on to something else. A lot of times we're having to juggle so many things that you really can't track and measure if you're moving the needle on that one thing, because we've thrown so many things into the equation. So use the STEAM process, and let's do a better job of checking our ego.
That's huge. That's absolutely huge and profound. Bejanae, we could obviously sit here and have this conversation for hours. I can tell that you're passionate about the work that you're doing and the role that you're in today. I'm like a sponge. I'm here to soak it all up and ask these cumbersome, loaded questions, because I still have some of my childhood educational experiences lingering with me, and I want to solve some of these problems, some of these challenges. But before we get out of here, let me ask you this question. And this is a loaded question. What does the classroom look like for you in 10 years? In your mind, if you got the crystal ball, how is education different in 10 years than it is today?
That is an absolutely phenomenal question. So, in my dream and my hope, with there being much more social consciousness these days, that, and we know that the globe, the US, is diverse. What I would like to see is more culturally responsive curriculum, instructors, and mindsets, because you to the curriculum unless people who are implementing the curriculum are also culturally aware themselves. So so again, that needs to happen. So I would like to see more culturally responsive curriculum. And then, as we alluded to earlier, it needs to be real world relevant for children. Like, we have this old, outdated school system, the way that we do school, and it only works for a very few. It only works for a very
Mm,
few.
mhm.
We have to change the game. If we're innovating technology and those things, we have to innovate education as well. We have to do things different because it's not working. It is
I
not
say
working the
that.
way it
I
is.
say that all the time. I never there look, I never failed a class in middle school or high school. But trust me, I brought home my share of C's and D's. On occasion, I brought home some B's, and even on a more rare occasion, I brought home an A. I just can't imagine, and I think I can only begin to imagine how my life would have turned out if somebody, an educator, would have tapped into my intelligence instead of passing me along, if you will. And to that point, all the attention went on the students who performed the best. Top of
Exactly.
everybody else just kind of fell into the
Right.
clump. You just fell into the group. And there were a lot of us that were, 2 point, or 3 point, O and lower. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
3.0s and lower,
They have hidden geniuses, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
but we were
Mm-hmm.
my peers, a lot of my peers, a lot of my dope peers are folks who didn't complete a college degree,
Yep.
who average high school
Mm-hmm.
grades, who maybe even got into some trouble along the way, but they do some of the most amazing, innovative, have some of the most amazing, innovative contributions to society.
That's right.
And
That's absolutely right.
it just was overlooked in those formative years.
Mm-hmm.
So to your point, something has to change on how we define intelligence,
That's correct. I agree wholeheartedly.
dopeness of young people, like what they can
That's right.
contribute.
Yeah.
Those bad kids, those quote unquote bad kids, it's some dopeness in them.
Right. Exactly.
Somewhere we got to find it, because they are next, and I don't want to sound too cliche-ish, but they are next Kevin Hart. They are next Dave
That's right. They
Chappelle.
could be. Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
not in a they're just to entertain, but I think about what Kevin Hart has done and what Dave Chappelle has contributed, from hiring people and having a vision and taking risks and breaking barriers in
Mm-hmm.
their industry.
That's right.
There could be sneaker culture, it could be music, it could be arts, entertainment, it could be science, technology, engineering,
Mm-hmm.
math, you know, all of these areas that we've got to figure out how we do differently. I'm
And
going to
guess
give
what?
this,
And we could get that information if we ask the kids.
if we
We
ask
do.
the kids.
Yeah, we do school the kids. We don't involve them in
Wow.
school.
Wow.
So
Say that
yeah.
again for the people in the back.
Yeah, we do school for kids.
Mm.
If we leverage their voice and their choice, then we would have the answers that we need. We would definitely have the answers. We have to collect that data source. We have to tap into that. And you also mentioned about, I had mentioned about culturally responsive and tapping into you. And that doesn't, cultural doesn't mean black and white. It doesn't mean skin color. It's a variety of things. Like you had mentioned, it could be in your interests, right? Tapping into that. It could be a variety of things. It could be a variety of things. So
Yeah.
culture doesn't just mean, skin color. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you raised
I'm
that.
glad you cleared that up for the audience. So you get the final words, something that you kind of maybe hope that I would have asked you, or something that you really wanted to get off, or just a final thought that you want to share on today's episode, we definitely will be bringing you back. But what are your final thoughts that you want to kind of leave the people with today?
My final thoughts is that I want to support, empower educators however possible. And we have a special campaign actually right now, special initiative, not even campaign, but initiative, where we want to eliminate the cost of educators even having to spend out of pocket to purchase our book resource, our what we call our grant writing starter guide. It's called Buy Books, Change Lives. And with that, what we're doing is that we are tapping into corporations. So anybody who's listened to your podcast, who is a corporate sponsor or know somebody, or even if you just want to volunteer and donate, we are shipping 1,000 of these grant writing starter guides, 12 quick steps to writing winning classroom grants, to teachers across the US so they can fully stock their classrooms and amplify education equity. And so you can feel free to tap in and donate at tinyurl.com/donate, capital D, to the number 2, and then teachers, capital T for teachers. So tinyurl.com/donate to teachers. And we are want to donate a gift, 1,000 of these books to educators, and that will impact 25,000 students across the US. So that's the final note that we want you to join our movement, so to speak. Help us empower educators.
Wow. Wow. That is huge. So to all the listeners, to all you dope people out here in the Dope People Hive.
That's right. Let's be dope together.
Let's be dope together. Get connected. Follow at BK Consultancy. Instagram at BK_consultancy. All of this will be in the show notes. tinyurl.com. Donate to teachers, capital D, capital T, the number 2. Donate to teachers. Bejanae Kareem, the grant guru. Thank you for stopping by today. It has been an absolute pleasure. And to all the listeners, you already know what it is. Until next time. Peace.
Bye. Thank you for having us.